Hedge Tube Dwellers, this is your host, the Mad Bag, with another Mad Bag Gamer production. Today, some Starcraft, a Terran vs. Zerg, in which I play on my Platinum ranked account. Note, I think I mentioned it last time I did a Starcraft commentary, but note that I'm now race-picking Terran on my secondary account, race-picking Protoss still on my primary. I'm on Perma-Tilt to Zerg, I can't do it, I can't play random anymore. So here, you're going to see me use a somewhat cheesy strategy that I kind of like. It plays off the metagame a little bit, and it's kind of harass heavy without totally sacrificing macro. You'll notice this is Shattered Temple. My opponent Mercury will try to get some of his stats in here by the end of the game. Check out what league he's in, see what rank he's in, see what his kill, I'm sorry, not kill, win-loss ratio looks like, see what my win-loss ratio looks like. I do the forecast, my supply depot goes down. Right after the supply depot, I shift some commands out. I want to go find out where he is. This is a 4-player map. However, your opponent cannot spawn close positions. So if you look at the mini-map down in the bottom left, I'm at the 12 o'clock position. Ooh, and see that on the mini-map, that little red dot? And I see it on my camera as well, and Overlord, he floated it a little too close. Anyway, if you look at the map, I'm in the 12 o'clock position. The 9 o'clock position is a potential spawn. The 6 o'clock and the 3 o'clock are all potential spawns. However, he can only spawn in the 3 or the 6 because the 9 is technically close ground positions, and that's disabled in this map. Now, the Overlord, he could have floated that in and seen my command center and then backed off before his Overlord was visible to me, because Overlords have longer vision distance than buildings. However, he did not, and I saw his Overlord, so I know exactly where he is. I'm going to go straight over to his natural and patrol around with an SCV. This keeps him from expanding immediately. A lot of Zerg players will sacrifice early combat units just to have more economy. They will go throw a hatchery down at their natural immediately with the hopes of getting a second base up very quickly. And that's what he's trying to do, and that's what I'm trying to stop. Now, I was thinking the attack there would be good, but it ends up working out a little against me. He gets the drone, he gets the SCV with his drone, and likely gets to put the hatchery down. Now, you'll notice I'm getting some gas. If I were wanting to expand, I may not get the gas at all, because Command Center doesn't cost any gas. You can get it with minerals only. However, I am getting gas, which indicates that I want to do something other than directly expand. And you'll see I take my Marine out here and patrol along. It's not actually a patrol, it's just an attack command. But I attack along the right side of my base, just looking for that Overlord, trying to see if maybe he kept that Overlord close. Marines can't shoot in the air, so he would be able to shoot the Overlord down, maybe. Depends on whether or not the Zerg player Mercury would run the Overlord away. Which he likely would, and he would likely get away. Overlords have plenty of hit points, and a single Marine doesn't necessarily do a lot of damage. So there you see my factory planet over by my geyser. The factory is kind of a gateway to higher tech for Terran. You need the factory before you can get things like the starport or other things like the armory or the fusion core after the starport, of course. And I'm staying on 1 gas, so this might look like a Hellion opener if someone were to bring an Overlord in. However, I'm not getting a reactor on my barracks, so it's not going to be like an all-out Hellion opener. And there you see that I instantly start getting the starport. Now, I'm going to build a Hellion, but it's only going to be 1, and that is where the metagame aspect of this strategy comes in. The Hellion opener, a Hellion expand, is probably the most popular Terran opener in Terran vs. Zerg right now, where you get a whole bunch of Hellions, you kind of keep the Zerg locked in his base. If you're lucky, you might be able to get in and kill some drones. Hellions are incredibly good at killing drones. They do line splash damage, so they just really have a chance to roast a bunch up. However, you see I produce only 1 Hellion, and then I'm building a tech lab on that factory, and now you see my second command center going down as well. That's where the macro comes in this build. The macro's a little bit later, but I'm not totally sacrificing it. I will have a command center just a little later. And once the factory finishes the tech lab, I'm going to lift the factory off and put the starport on the tech lab so that I can immediately get a Banshee. Now you'll notice that my gas just works out for this. I still don't have my second gas. Getting the second gas would probably allow me to go like cloaked Banshees. Cloak is an upgrade that you can get for Banshees that allows you to use energy on the Banshees and make them invisible for a time, which can make them a lot more painful to deal with. However, against Zerg, if they can beat a Banshee, they tend to be able to beat a cloaked Banshee. You see my hellion finds a couple Zerglings out in front of his base. Anyway, as I was saying, a single Banshee without Cloak a lot of times can do the same amount of damage as a Banshee with Cloak when you're facing a Zerg opponent. A Banshee one-on-one kills a Queen. If you can kill a Queen in his main, and especially if he doesn't have creep connecting the two, then you can really do some damage to a drone line while he tries to get his second Queen up there. So that's the goal of this, and the Hellion is to trick him, to make him think that I'm going to do this Hellion Expand opener, and make him maybe produce roaches, maybe make him make spines, instead of focusing on anti-air. It's to make him think that I'm not going to go Banshees. I'm going to go Hellions instead. He sees a Hellion, right? Logic would dictate that I could just build more of them. But no, instead I'm just going to build one Banshee. You see there, it does take out the Queen, and now I'm taking drones down. So far I've got 4 kills on the Banshee, that's including the Queen. That was the 6th, here's the 7th. And another Queen comes in, so I run immediately. And that actually gets really close. She's at 14 health, Queens do 7 damage. So that Banshee is only 2 shots away from dying. And you'll see that I'm starting to get my production in line as well. I got a couple more barracks. I've got a naked starport, meaning it doesn't have any add-ons. And I've got a tech lab on my factory, which will allow me to produce tanks. So I can move straight into a marine tank composition, which is pretty standard against Zerg. And I can add a couple medevacs. You don't need a lot. You need enough to maybe harass with one, and or to just heal your troops if you have to stem. Ideally, you don't want to stem them all. Now that may have looked like a suicide maneuver that didn't really do anything for me, but you'll note that I failed in stopping his creep spread, and so I decided just to take the Hellion in his base and see if I could see anything. I did see that he has an evolution chamber, which means he most likely has spores, which most likely means that this Banshee harass is pretty well done. However, I get a little bit more with it. Coming in this time, I actually did not start shooting immediately, and I was worried right there that my Banshee might not take his Queen, but luckily he backed his Queen up first, because he was afraid that the Banshee would still take his Queen, which is good for me. I killed a drone and got out. I would rather keep that Banshee alive than just sacrifice it. Having that Banshee alive keeps in his mind that that Banshee might come in at any point in time, and keeps him afraid of it, keeps him on edge and watching for it, soaks some of his attention, which is always good. And I'm bunkering up my front. I'm trying to make sure that I'm defended. Sometimes, not often, but sometimes that Banshee does such critical damage that it forces the Zerg to feel like if the game goes on any longer, he doesn't possibly have a chance. If you do enough damage to his economy, then he can kind of judge by logic that your economy is way ahead of his, and any time you spend with that economy ahead will allow you to get an army that's ahead. So a lot of times, if you do critical damage with that Banshee, a Zerg will all in. So it's really important to be defensive in this stage until you get your second base up and are able to get some production off of it. And you'll notice my timing could be a little bit better with some barracks here, and it could have been a little bit better with that gas. I would like to be getting a little bit more consistent medevac production, and ideally would like to be throwing down a couple more barracks right here. One factory off 2 base generally allows you to have enough siege tanks that you can keep his banelings at bay, and then that's really the siege tank's only role. It's just to kill banelings so that your marines can rule everything else. If he has banelings, banelings destroy your marines so fast that's not funny, and that tank will help keep your marines safe. You can just back your marines up as banelings come forward. Now you see, I'm pushing back out onto the map with this Banshee, and that's why it's great to still have this alive. If he's on the tower, I actually gave him an attack command straight across the watchtower in the middle of the map. If he's on the tower, he would see that Banshee, and it would worry him. And the Banshee would be able to kill the guy that he has on the tower, which would allow me to move my army out unseen. And you'll see that's exactly what I'm doing. I've got a couple critical pieces of tech coming in very shortly. And I just now got in the engineering bay and started the +1. That +1 won't be done for this push. However, having siege mode and coming close to having stem will make this a worthwhile push. So that scan was probably a little early. I could have waited till I was a little closer to the creep. But it ends up being alright. I kill a queen, I kill a couple creep tumors, and I siege a couple tanks up. Now, honestly, this is pretty aggressive. I'm pretty far forward on his creep, and this is dangerous. And I assume that since I'm kind of in his choke that he won't be able to get units out, but that assumption is flawed in that good Zerg players will have units sitting outside of their base waiting to flank, and you'll see that's exactly what he did with his roaches. His roaches were not inside of his base when I started this push. They were out, and they came in from behind and sniped my tanks. I barely did any damage to his roaches, and I totally lost my tanks. I was too aggressive with the Marines going after a pack of Overlords, and instead lost all my tanks. However, I still have most of my Marines, so it's not a total failure, and that little pump fake might make him stop droning or slow down his build of economy. And now I'm going in the back with my Banshee to try to get a little harass on the natural. However, I pay too little attention to her, and she gets taken out. That's okay. What I said before still holds. Ideally, if you can keep the Banshee alive, that is great. You can continue to do annoying things with the Banshee. However, losing her isn't a game breaker. You see here I'm setting up a drop, and I'm getting ready for a second push. If I can get a couple more tanks together, again, you only need a tank or two, well, maybe 3. I should say 2 or 3 tanks. Tanks will one-shot Banelings without any upgrades, no matter the Banelings upgrades. But ideally, you want to be able to 2-shot Banelings in 2 different places, or I'm sorry, 1-shot Banelings in 2 different places. He pushes forward with his roaches. I stem late and back up. That was kind of not a great engagement, but he backed up too, so I'm going to continue to be a little bit forward. I want to get pressure back on him to disallow him to continue macro play, which Zergs almost always try for. I told my medevac to hold position there, and I'm going to remove my drop in the back to try to soak some more of his attention, while I'm going to be very aggressive in the front. Now I'm just going to attack his units enough to get them to engage me, and then I'm going to back up and let his units take some of my siege tank fire. And then I'm going to return to my drop and notice that it's dead. Crap. Horrible multitasking there by me. Could have done way better keeping that drop alive, getting that drop out of there. It was just Zerglings that cleaned it up. Now I'm bringing my second tank in. You see I have my 3rd command center ready to expand again when and if this push fails. However, I don't have those rocks knocked down, so that's not ideal. And you'll notice also that my macro slipped pretty hard. I have a lot of money. I have close to 1,000 minerals. Ideally, like 500 minerals is a critical amount. There's nothing in the game that costs more than 500 minerals, so if you have 500 minerals, it means you're sitting on money that you could be making work. You could put that money to work to help you win the game. I didn't do that too well. I had a couple barracks that should have went down earlier than they did. You see them going down there, and honestly, I could slap down a couple more just because my macro slipped so bad. I need to overcompensate. I need to put down more barracks than I can support just to kill my bank, just to get it on the map, to get it working for me, to get it doing something. And now I'm going to push very slowly. I'm going to put on the pressure. He does come into me. He doesn't have enough Banelings, however, he gets some decent hits there, but the siege tank with the Marines is just too much. And you'll notice you heard an upgrade complete right before that push really came in. I believe that was my +1. I think I've got +1 now. And it's just pretty much a clean sweep from here. I attribute how one-sided this last fight was mostly to how offset my Banshee harass put him. I should say how offset my Hellion into Banshee harass put him. He had a bunch of roaches, which is what you would do to counter a mass Hellion strategy, but then I came in with a Banshee and it just threw him off. He had to invest in Banshee defense as well, and he wasn't looking great. So here you see, you know, a little bit of information about the match. None of that's incredibly important. He got more workers than me built, actually. And you'll see right here at the end, my army value, it was a little bit ahead of him the whole game, just because he had to invest in a couple different things, and I barely invested in something that got him to fire away. Let's go take a look at his stats and at my stats. Let's see. He is a platinum player. Looks like it's a rank 22. I'm actually watching this on really low quality right now, so I couldn't see perfectly what that rank was. And I am a whopping rank 65. So there you have it, another TvZ, a kind of neat little strategy that can rope-a-dope your opponent. Thank you guys for watching. Be on the lookout for some more StarCraft 2 content in the future. Of course, I'm going to keep the focus on Skyrim, at least until I bust through that content, the end of the main quest storylines, and maybe some mod stuff, and hell, it might be time for some downloadable content by then. Alright, well, subscribe if you guys like the content. I'll see you in the next episode.